Okay. Well, I guess as people start coming in, we can re refresh them on what's going on. But I just wanted to say welcome to everyone. This is my first time doing anything like this with the system. So, I mean, I've been on plenty of Zoom meetings in L2 and lots of system meetings, but not really sort of spearheading one. So I'm really excited to see everybody that's joined. So really, there's not a formal structure to this. I just thought, you know, we obviously use, like everybody, I think, use social media in our libraries. And I just thought it would be kind of interesting to see what's working for people, what's not working for people, what you've had the most success with, depending on, you know, like even what platforms you're using, what platforms you've used and have not had success with, or vice versa. And then on those platforms, what since type of posts seem to work best for everyone. So if we want to just start in and talk about it, and I can also introduce our newest staff member at Hainer Library, Faith Robinson. Faith has just joined us as our social media coordinator, and she's doing copy editing for us and also maintaining our website. So she's just started last week, so she's new on the job, and I thought this would be kind of a good introduction for her too, to see what other libraries success stories and that we can all share. So I don't know if somebody wants to go first and talk about what platforms they're using or what's been working for everybody.
I don't mind going first.
Awesome.
I'm Paula Simonson. I work at the Catlin Public Library, which is pretty small. There's just 4 staff, 1 full-time, 3 part-time. I've been here over 20 years. I started out just doing like the story time. That was I did as a consultant kind of basis, and I've gradually taken over more and more things. And I started our Facebook page years ago, and that's basically what I use. I tried Instagram for a little while, but it just felt like too much work to reinvent, try to get a whole bunch of followers again. So our community has a community page that really is very effective. So I post a lot of things on there to good effect. I have a couple of smaller groups, like one called Catlin Library Reading Program, that I invite parents, grandmas, babysitters to be in that one. And that's where I put pictures of the kids that we take during programming so that they're a little bit more protected, not way out in the world. We also have a group of older adults that meets here on weekly, called Coffee Talk, and I have a group called Coffee Talk, and there's about 70 or 80 people that will participate at some point in our Wednesday groups, never all at the same time, because, you know, someone's got a doctor's appointment, you know, at least once a month on a morning. So, and then the final group I have is called In Case You Get Hit by a Bus, and we did a focus on that book during COVID over the winter. It was kind of a virtual thing that we did every week. I went through a chapter of that book, and that book is about doing pre-planning to prepare for your death. So things that you can do to make things easier for your loved ones after you pass away. And so every week I went through a chapter of that. It sounds morbid, but the book is actually pretty upbeat. And so I think those are all of the Facebook groups for the library that I oversee. I do have two groups or 2 pages, one that I think of as my work one, and then one that I have more people that we've known from other places. But the work one, I'll put not just work stuff, but like if my husband and I go kayaking out in the local park, or go to some place that I think local people would be interested in, that is put on that page too. But we've had pretty good success with Facebook. I use Messenger to communicate with people that I don't have their phone numbers, and remind people of programs. And so that's pretty much what we're doing.
That's great. So Paula, let me ask you this, and this could be a question for you and also for anybody. How many of you have had someone on your staff has started a page and then they've left, and then you've had to move on and have another staff member manage that. And have you had any issues, you know, moving from staff member to staff member? We've got this weird thing where we had someone set it up, and we're not quite a business page, and we're not quite an individual page. It's called a gray page. And the problem is, if we take it down, we lose all the content that we had previous to that. And, you know, everybody then has to start following you again. And so I just wondered if anybody had run into any issues like that, any continuity of staffing issues.
I haven't, because I'm the one who started it, but I do think about that when I leave. Like, I guess I feel like a person could just take over my page. I've communicated a lot with that, but we do have a Catlin Library page that is kind of a business page. I think at first it was like a fan page. I don't remember exactly how that worked, but
Yeah.
so that is, it can exist now without me if I have to leave. But there was a time there where I wasn't sure how that was all going to work. And I have had different people like also be managers of our page, but they didn't enjoy it very much. And so 2 different board members did it for a while, and then it's back to just me again. But no, that is something I've thought about. So I'm curious to hear what other people have to say here too.
Yeah.
I have a little bit of experience with that. So when I was at Tri Township, I was the creator of their page. And when I left to become a director at Muscuda, I was able to pretty seamlessly hand it off to one of the other people who have been designated an admin. We had a business page, so I'm not sure how the gray page works with that, but it was pretty painless when I did the transfer.
Nice. Does anybody else want to jump in with their what platforms they use, or if anybody puts anything in the chat, I can read those too. So what platforms is everyone using?
My name is Keith. I'm with the Marion Carnegie Library. We're a southern part of the state. We do Facebook and Instagram. Facebook is like by far our biggest reach. Instagram would be second. We do have a Snapchat as well that we use mainly just for like teen events. Like for example, tomorrow we have a teen craft jack-o'-lantern thing. So I put up some information about that, but that's mainly, if that gets used for anything, it's only for teen centric events. Facebook is our biggest thing, kind of by head and shoulders though.
What about we've got one with Crab Orchard Library. They use Facebook and recently using their Instagram again. So it seems like it's with a lot of people, Facebook and Instagram. Facebook, and I'm sorry, I'm going to mispronounce this, the Nagoa District Library, they use Facebook, and Germantown uses Facebook and Instagram in the chat. So what about TikTok? Does anybody have any success with TikTok?
So we decided, I've thought about that, just doing more video content generally, and we haven't. And a big part of the reason for that is our staff is not interested, and I don't want to do all of it just by myself. So we've kind of held off, like even our Instagram, everyone, like I think there's a reel that I put up yesterday or today, but they're generally pretty short, and they're, you know, it's like videos of things happening. It's not necessarily of people. I poked around with that. I actually went to the LMCC conference last fall, and there were a couple things there that sort of got my creative juices flowing. But when I talk to our staff here, they're just not interested in being part of something. They don't even like to be in the photos. So it's kind of just, it may be, and I'm sure it is more effective than just straight up images, but it's not something they're interested in doing, and I don't feel like forcing it. So we don't really do any video stuff here at all.
Does anybody else?
Sorry, Joel. There was a good presentation at the ILA annual conference last year about libraries and TikTok. I don't know if that's floating around somewhere that could be accessed, but I attended it and it was interesting. But we have the same problem where even a short video takes a lot more time to get right and put out. Facebook, you can throw up a single photo and a little blurb and it's out there and you're done. And yeah, no one wants to be the quote unquote star of a TikTok page.
Does anybody else find that with their staff where they have some reluctance to be on social media?
Yeah, most definitely. They barely want to be in pictures. So we have a couple who would be willing to do it, I think, but it is trying to get the whole crew together. It's hard.
Yeah.
So I thought about doing TikTok videos. I think it would be fun, but I have so little time.
Yeah.
I have to be kept. I'm not on the IMRF. I can't work over it, and I have a lot of responsibilities. And so I don't feel like it's worthy of my time. But what the other gentleman said, is we just try to do more video content. And I find that if I just do a Facebook Live and don't care how it, you know what I mean? If it turns out terrible, I can go back and delete. But we don't usually have a lot of people watching live. So I figured I'm only embarrassing myself among, a very small number of people. But I have found that is a very simple way to get some video content. And it'll be something like, we have a garden. So Kathleen, the director, wanted to show how the potatoes grew. And so I did a 3-minute video of her digging the potatoes out. And we talked about, how they grow under the whatever, you guys know how potatoes grow, but the kids maybe didn't know. And we'll do, like, sometimes before a big event, I might pop on while we're setting up and show with the tables and all the things that are set up and just give a little reminder of people. And I think doing that on Facebook Live, I've had a hard time like making videos and then posting them. Like they're too long or something. And then it's so disappointing if you put all the work in, and I don't want to learn how to do it right. So for me, just Facebook Live and minimal amount of pride works pretty well together. So if I'm just, I may mess up, but oh well. So but yeah, nobody else wants to be on there. I force them every once in a while, but it's pretty much me. So
yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Oh, so what kind of posts, I guess, well, let's get the bad over with first so we can talk about our success stories, but what type of posts have not worked for people, or what have you done in the past that you just kind of think, nah, it didn't get, for the amount of time that you put into it, it didn't have a lot of payback or payoff? Like we have found that if you pictures of like flyers and things on Canva get your information out, but they maybe don't necessarily get the number of likes and comments on them, but you're still getting your information out. So it's important to do that. But we have found that any pictures we put up of people, staff members, which is the ironic thing, it's like, that's what gets the most comments, what gets the most shares, the most likes, are pictures of our people, whether it's our staff or our patrons, but they're also more reluctant to be in them. So I don't know if anybody else has found that, but that's what we tend to have success with, when it's actual pictures of people and events and things that are going on at the library.
Yeah, I'll agree with that, Mary. I'm just reading a book about building your story brand, and basically they're talking about telling their story. What is the patron's story, not what is our story. It's how can we fulfill that, their problem, or their how can we impact their story. And so it's not about us per se,
Mm-hmm.
We can always show the staff, and that's just showing how nice we are to impact their life as in a positive way when they come here. But I agree that pictures of people are the most. What I'm seeing hesitancy in our staff so we have several people who kind of work on the Facebook page. So we have a committee, and the children's department sometimes is reluctant to put children's pictures out there.
Yeah.
And I get it, but that's when we get the most, bang for our buck in some cases. And we do have, if you come to the library, you have, we're covered by, a video policy and stuff like that. But it's still, I think there's a lot of hesitancy still there. So it's like, well, but that's where we're gonna get the
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I guess that's also too, one of the questions is policies. Does everybody have a social media policy? Do you not have one? Did you have one and found it wasn't effective, or you needed to update it, or what's everyone's status on policies?
we have a policy, but I think it's pretty generic. And I haven't read it in a very long time, so I cannot tell you. Plus I was not the one that wrote it. So
Yeah, we don't have a policy, and I've gone back and forth on whether it's interesting. We had a couple of legal opinions that one said don't have one. Because then, you've limited yourself to, what you have in policy. We had somebody else, another attorney say, yeah, you should have one. So we don't have one, and I'm not really sure which bit of advice to follow. So we don't have one in our library, and I'm looking in the chat, and Newton Public Library says they don't have a policy. And then Joel says theirs is very generic and in dire need of update. And Negoa does not have a policy either. So not sure what everybody else is doing on that front.
Miriam does not have one.
Okay.
So we have a social media policy for people. If this is what you mean, like when people sign up for programs, they just sign up saying that it's okay for their kids' pictures to be on there. I don't know if that's what you mean, or if there's something else.
Yeah, I know.
But
some people have that type of policy, and then some people have an actual social media policy. So yeah. I think we just have disclaimers up in our building that say, if you attend Smile, you're on camera. If you attend a program, you might end up on our website or Facebook page. But I've kind of been toying with the idea of an actual social media policy. So Heron, let's see here. Fairview Heights does not have a policy. And then Heron City Library says Heron does have a social media policy, but does not have a social media policy, but we do have a photography and filming policy. And then Germantown says we do not have a social media policy, but have a photo policy and announce at events that we are taking photos, and they will be posted on social media platforms. So, and then Christine says, what does a social media policy cover? Or asks a question. So, I guess that's another, that question is a really good question, Christine, because that kind of brings up the topic of going into, oh my gosh, my brain's gone completely blank. The Illinois Local Records Act, and whether or not things that are posted on your Facebook page become public record. And so whether you can delete comments, what is everybody's experience with that? Whether you can delete comments, do you have to keep the comments on? Do you have to file with, the Local Records Act, the Illinois Archives to delete those posts? What has everybody been advised, or have any history with that? And Joel says Local Records does consider social media as a public record. Yeah, we ran into that earlier in the year. When we had an issue with our Facebook page, we had some comments that came in that were a whole media storm started on our Facebook page, and that's when we found out real fast that they were part of the Local Records Act. So, oh, thank you. Alana put a link to their social media policy in the chat for anybody who can see it.
Sorry, I got interrupted. But I can't, as I said, I don't remember what it says, but if it is a comment that, like, we have a couple comments that are trying to friend other people, which has nothing to do with the comment itself, I just hide it. I don't get rid of it, but I hide it. So at least it's not showing. Because again, it's just a spam link. So it has nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
And I think there's only been one occasion in which we've had issues regarding any negative comments or anything like that, and Amy, who's our library director, handled that. So
Does everybody have the comments turned on in your on your pages, or do you just turn it off and use it more as like a bulletin board, posting bulletin board?
We leave comments turned on posts, but I generally do the only hosts can comment thing when we post an event on Facebook.
Okay.
Because we did find it's sort of like what Alana was saying just now. Those tend to be like attractive to people putting, we've had a glut of people recently posting things like, on a children's story time or something, where it'll say like, oh, we only have 3 vendor booths left available. Call me for my PayPal information to lock in your. So we just did, because it gives you the option, so only the host can post, and that's generally what we do with events, unless it's a weird situation.
Right. Germantown says comments are on. We get very few interactions on our Facebook page. And Lisa says we have our comments on our Facebook turned on. Joel also says there's a company called Archive Social that archives social media for public record purposes, but it's expensive. So it's good to know, Joel. I did not know that about. I'm gonna write that down. Yeah, we don't get a ton of comments. We have kind of a few of the same people that make a lot of a few comments. Tends to be 1 or 2 people, which is wonderful because they're nice comments, but it's not super interactive. So okay. So for those of you who've had success, what have been your most successful posts that you've done, or the type of posts that you've done? I know we talked about, people getting their photos tend to do better, but are there any kind of programs or any kind of thing that you've found that you've done online? I know I was talking yesterday with someone about doing a book club on Facebook. So I don't know if anybody did anything like that might have generated some interest.
the thing that we do on a consistent basis on Facebook is Flashback Fridays. So when it's more recent history, it obviously gets a lot more comments, but even the ones that are really old, sometimes they get comments too. So it's a something that is fun. It gets the history out, and I'm a local history and genealogy librarian, so over here, so I am working on developing that history. So
Do you link back to anything on your website, like with your, like, oh, check out our archive, our newspaper archives, or this, that, or the other? Do you use it sort of as a marketing tool also?
sometimes we do always link to the Illinois Digital Archives, which is where our digital library is located. But if there is a connection that I see, I do, but we don't have a ton of resources for newspapers or anything like that, so we don't, but I know that with Hayner, that would be a perfect thing for you guys to do.
Yeah. Yeah, we do some pictures on Throwback Thursday. Our genealogy and local history library manager posts some of those. Joel says reels at events have been the best marketing tools for them. And Lisa says, I try to do a this or that Tuesday and a what are you reading Wednesday and our Friday book feature. And they seem to get more interactions. Our staff recommendations get interactions as well. So that's good.
Something else that's been doing well for us is anytime we mention a partner organization, the post seems to outperform, and it might just be, we share it and they share it, so we're kind of doubling our audience. But we've been doing a lot with our local civic center, and then we're also doing Paint the Town Purple for domestic violence awareness in October. And anytime we've mentioned that and the Violence Prevention Center, which is an organization in Belleville, those posts have been outperforming. So I don't know if it's people being sympathetic to the cause or just, oh, they also shared it and now all of the people who follow their page are seeing it.
Yeah. This is kind of, I don't know, for those of you, how many of you are still using databases, like still EBSCO subscriptions, that type of thing? Is anybody still subscribing to those? And have you found any way to advertise those on social media that have actually gotten attention? Because I feel like they're one of the most valuable resources we have, and they're one of the most underutilized resources we have, and they're one of the most expensive resources we have. But I don't know how to make them interesting to people. And I didn't know if anybody else had any tips for doing that.
We actually have gotten rid of a couple of, we had MyHeritage for a while. We've had several of those of all different types. We had some test prep databases. And because of what you just said, we no longer have those. And it was difficult. I never got any traction with any sort of, social media or otherwise, short of literally just making, the only time I had more than one person signed in at a time was when I held a program here at the library that said, here's how you use this. And then it was just the people who were there, and I don't know that they came back.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a weird thing, because I agree. It's the one, we had a genealogy thing, we had a test prep thing, we had a resume maker, and a couple of other things. And yeah, just we couldn't keep justifying the expense for these programs that people just weren't interested in. Yeah, that was a bummer.
Yeah, I know. I just feel like they're so valuable and nobody uses them. And I don't care how you try to market them, they just don't take off. And I didn't know if anybody, had any success stories with social media with that. So, Germantown says, I recently learned how to create an event of Facebook, and that seems to remind people that a program is coming up. And Joel says, none, we can't drive usage for any of our databases. We tried adding more useful databases like the language learning base database, and we just can't get anything off the ground. So, okay. As sad as that is, I'm glad to know we're not in the only ones in that boat. Okay.
I will say that we do have Ancestry here at the library. We don't use social media per se to do much of the advertisement or marketing part of things. But we have a Friends of Genealogy group, and we also have just some people that have found out that we actually do have Ancestry that are using it. So it's not a ton of usage, but it's probably our highest outside of either our ebooks here at the library. So yeah, I don't know.
What about teen programming and your teen engagement with social media. Teens are such a hard group to get a hold of. So does anybody have any success stories with their teen programming and social media?
We do use our Snapchat specifically for that demographic, but honestly, I don't have any evidence that it actually does anything. I mean,
Right.
it's you know, it takes an extra half hour to do, but you know, it's not. I think maybe we're not consistent on it enough for it to register to people who are, you know, and I think kids are just or teenage, you know, if you're in high school and you see, you know, the library has a new Snap, I don't know that you really care, especially if you just pop it up and it says like, hey, come build this jack-o'-lantern thing tomorrow. Like, I don't, it wasn't like we started doing that and then all of a sudden our teen attendance doubled. Like, it wasn't even close to that.
Yeah.
I know people see it and I know we have Snapchat followers, but I'm not sure that the act of putting anything on Snapchat really does anything to help. I mean, it doesn't hurt, but I don't think it's like
Yeah.
a magic bullet.
Yeah. And then you get, oh, sorry, Joel, go ahead.
I was gonna say, we haven't had any success reaching teens. Like marketing literature I've read on social media is saying that teens have migrated away from Facebook, which is our primary platform. We just haven't been able to find out where they've moved to. Discord floated around, but maintaining that seemed like a lot of extra work for a maybe.
Yeah, I feel the same way, Joel. I think we the only Facebook related thing that I've seen have any impact with that age group is our library is part of a couple of Facebook groups of homeschool families. We have a big homeschool community nearby. So being able to talk to people directly, but it's just through that group. It's not like and really it's not even advertised. It isn't even stuff like, oh, here's this great event that happens tomorrow at 4 p.m. It's more like people will approach us and ask like, do you have anything? We have STEAM programming on Saturdays for ages 10 to 18. So we do posts about that kind of stuff. And then we do things after school of just like, we call it open lab, but we have a bunch of stuff people can come in and use. But a lot of times we'll get families Facebook messaging us to ask about that. I mean, we post on it, but it's not, our posts don't really seem to drive a lot of direct action. It just tends to bring up more questions that then we can interact one-on-one with other people in that group.
Lisa says, besides working at Crab Orchard Library, I'm also a young adult librarian at Harrisburg Library. At Harrisburg, I emailed the media specialists at the middle and high school to share the flyers for our teen programs. They posted on their Facebook pages and on the announcements for their Google Classrooms, and that has brought their numbers up. So that's really interesting. So partnering with the schools, that might be a way for us to increase our teen engagement. So interesting. What about, as you were talking, I was thinking about, you talked about Snapchat. Does anybody still use Twitter or X or whatever it's called now? Has anybody have any success with that? And if you were having success with it, has it changed from, ownership to the current platform that it is? Did you see any of your numbers drop off? We never got any traction with Twitter. Somebody's typing something.
As far as I know, our library has never used Twitter. I mean, certainly not since I've been here, but I don't think we did before that either.
Okay. Yeah, we had it. I don't know that we may still have it. I don't know. But it's probably a terrible thing to say that I don't know, but never, as far as I know, never got any traction at all. So like everybody else, ours has mostly been Facebook. That's been our primary source of traffic, the most popular platform. So there really haven't been any of the others that have taken off that we've used. So okay. Nope, Joel says no Twitter for us. So sorry, Twitter. Okay. Does anybody have anything? Like I said, I didn't really know how long, to make this, or whether it would be, worth us getting together and talking, but it sounds to me like we're all kind of in the same boat, and that feels like a good feeling to know that, there's nothing out there that we've missed the boat on, but at the same time, we're all kind of having the same experiences. I was really interested to see who had policies. That was first and foremost in my mind. I don't know for anybody. We had a display about 2 days into my being director that was a trans author display, and it blew up. We posted it on Facebook, and we just had a ton of back and forth between patrons and negative and positive, and it became a thing. It took on a life of its own, and I think that sort of freaked me out and made me want to know, what do we do with policies? And then to get the one person saying yes, you need one person saying no, you don't need one. I kind of wanted to focus on that and see what, whether anybody had a policy, and if you did, what it was. So that was kind of what I wanted to get out of this. And then again, I wanted to get success stories and see what's working for everybody. Joel says it's both cathartic that we're not alone and disheartening that there aren't any answers besides pour more resources into it. Yeah, I hear you. I feel like it's a necessary evil. Like, you have to have it, but how do you make it successful? So,
Could I ask like a practical question? How does everybody manage your social media stuff like through the day? So I guess, like, in other words, like, do you come in every morning and then post then, or do you, like, what I do is the Thursday afternoon, I will schedule the schedulable things I will schedule for the following week. And then throughout each day, let's say we have a story hour and we get a couple good pictures from it, I'll post that the day of, like the afternoon after that story hour. But I just feel like it takes forever, like with all the different types of media and the different channels, which, I mean, it's not that many, it's like 3, but it's just, devoting a whole afternoon to it and then not seeing a lot of immediate, to me, a lot of it is like a branding exercise just to kind of stay in front of people's eyeballs. But yeah, it just kind of sometimes can feel like I'm spending, whatever, 15% of my week dealing just with Facebook and Instagram and not seeing much like direct impact from that, which I know that's not entirely true. I mean, it is making an impact. It's better to be there than to not. But does anybody have any like time management tips maybe, or just interested how other people deal with the whether it's scheduled or posting on the spot or a combination of both? Or
well, we're really lucky in that Faith has joined us. She is our social media coordinator. So we're very lucky in that we have the staff resources, or the resources to be able to dedicate a staff member to that. And like I said, it's her literally first week on the job. So, I don't know if Faith wants to speak to that or not, but we're lucky that we have a staff member that we've been able to dedicate to that. I'm not sure how everyone else is handling that. So yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and apologize. I have an angry 4-year-old in the background here. Something's not working quite right in the playroom, and so that's happening. But one thing that I know is, or can be very helpful, is like batch creation. So, if you have an event series that's the same every week, you could create flyers for all of those in one sitting if you have the time. And then that way, like you mentioned, scheduling the posts, you can schedule those out. And so you're kind of ahead of the game in terms of that. So that can save you some time. So you're not feeling like you have to hurry up and play catch up to post. Other than that, I'm not really sure. I think creating like a calendar, a social media calendar or a content calendar is super helpful also. That may be something that you've kind of looked into, but jotting down those most important things that you want to make sure you're posting about. reminding your patrons of, or even, you know, if there's an event coming up and you're like, okay, I know we want to recap this event, you know, jot that down on the calendar so that way you have, you know, those really important things. You know, but other than that, I'm not sure how to make it much quicker.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you very much for that.
Oh, Alana says I would recommend reading Super Library Marketing. That's the name of the book, Super Library Marketing. I'm gonna take a look at that. And Alana, I'm sorry, you also mentioned another book that you were reading when we first started, and you said it was about selling your library or telling your patron story. I'm sorry.
I've got to get it out of my purse.
Oh, okay.
I can do show and tell. It's Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. I'm just starting it, but I usually don't have tabs. So when I'm reading things, but this is it's been a pretty good book so far. It's one of those things where if we could get a collective of libraries to do something similar to this, because what he's trying to basically say is that any story or any marketing needs to be like a movie. So you have a hero, you have a villain, you have the friction or the frustration that the villain but instigates. And essentially, so you have the hero is your customer, the villain is the frustration, and what can we do to solve that problem? And so he calls it a brand script. And I'm only about a third of the way through, but I think in some cases, I mean, we're all dealing with very similar things, and having a brainstorming session would be really helpful for me, but because our library director has a ton of other things that she's working on and so forth. And so I take inspiration from people very well, but coming up with things by myself has been difficult. So we'll see. And the Super Library Marketing is by Angela Hirsch. She is right now manager of marketing or something like that at Novelist, but
okay.
She has experience at the Cincinnati Public Library. And as Keith had mentioned, I'm super excited to go to, so I'm completely new to marketing in general. So I'm another accidental marketer. And so I don't really know a ton. So I'm actually going to go to the conference, the library marketing conference in Indianapolis. And she's going to be talking about how to word your posts and stuff like that. So I'm excited about that. I think that conference is full, but maybe I can figure out a way to summarize things and put it out there.
Well, I know Kite mentioned she was Kate was super great at setting this up. She saw, when we were emailing back and forth about whether or not anybody would be interested in this roundtable, she jumped on it. It was like, we can help with that. So I'm sure if you wanted to get in touch with Kate, that they could set something up for us to do another roundtable for marketing, just general marketing, not even social media, but I would love to go to something like that too. So I think that would be really helpful.
Yeah, I'm excited to go. So
Yeah.
cross our fingers that I learn things and I can implement things. That's the other part.
Yeah. Yeah.
As I said,
Has anyone, oh, sorry.
no, I'm just gonna say, as I said, I have many fingers in different pots.
Has anybody seen Facebook? I know there's Facebook groups. There are Facebook groups out there for just about everything. And it seems like a lot of them are not so great, but has anybody seen any specific to library marketing or library marketing on social media? To be honest, I have not looked yet, but that just came to mind and I wondered if anybody had seen that.
Give me a minute and I can pull up the ones that I have.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, we have a question too. Paula Simonson says or asks, do you use your own phone or does the library provide a device? Keith says, I don't use my own device. I'm kind of paranoid about FOIA, so I use a library provided device. So Faith, we might want to talk about that. So does anybody else use their own phone or does the library provide a device? Or any kind of other equipment actually? Is there any equipment that you've purchased specifically for social media? And Alana's putting, for those of you that could see, Alana's putting the links for the marketing groups in the chat. Right now, we're using our own devices here at Hainer because one of the things that we do and that we've done historically, and again, you know, everything's fluid, can change, but we've all at our programs that we've done, like tonight, I'm going to be at a performance, and I was going to take pictures and then I'll send them to Faith to put on social media. So we're kind of all using our own devices, but you're right, you know, that does lead to the issues of, you know, does that then make your device FOIA-able? I guess I should say. So, you know, if anybody has any info on that, that would be helpful. Joel says, I only post from my phone when I don't have another option. I like posting from an outreach event. Yeah, so real-time posting. Germantown, old school here, take photos with the camera, upload items to computer, then post. Nothing wrong with that. Oh, Matt at IHLS says we do offer consulting for marketing for members. You can book a 30-minute appointment with Shandy Grieve Penrod or Carol Hogan Downey for assistance with marketing. They're both excellent people. And then he put a link in the chat, and I know you can find that on the IHLS website too. So that's good to know. You know, I think I vaguely remembered hearing about that, and I think it went in one ear and out the other. So that's a really good reminder. This is not necessarily social media, but it is kind of media related. How many people, does anybody do a podcast? We've got a local sort of online show that we participate in. I just did it yesterday. And then we can, you know, share and post the link on that, but I didn't know if anybody had any success with the podcast or had even tried. We've not tried. So
Chatham has not, but Vespasian Warner, I'm gonna sell theirs. It's one of the staff members who does it as a hobby, and they offered to kind of do it for the library. And it's super popular for them. They just recently did I think like a true crime series, and that was podcast and in person, and I guess it just blew up in DeWitt County. So, but so take a look at that, or talk to Bobby Perryman and Vespasian Warner.
Sorry, I was muted. Joel says, I've done a how to podcast program, but never recorded one for the library. We have a podcasting kit in our library of things for our patrons to check out, but we've never done anything podcast wise here in our library. Are there any other kind of media? I know we said we were going to specifically focus on social media, but is there any other kind of media that anyone has found any that works for them? Then I guess then you could post to social media. We do our radio show with our local radio station and our local online, our local website, riverbender.com, with them.
I'm not sure if it counts as another media, but I've kind of focused heavily this past 6 months or so on building our email list rather than focusing only on social media stuff. I still do social media stuff just as much as I ever did, but we went with our email list, which before I started in this position, we didn't, we had maybe 50 names or something. But we're up to, I think the last I counted was 620 something. And that way I can send, it's a little bit more direct communication. Like I can, here are 3 things that I want you to know about. And if I send it to your email address, I'm sure you're at least getting it. And that's, again, there's no direct like, oh, now we've got twice as much foot traffic, but I think it does, I'm sure it does help to get information directly to people rather than relying on Instagram to show it if they're interested in that sort of thing and they've engaged with it before. It's a more direct way of getting stuff to someone than relying just on social.
We do that too. A few years ago, I started an email list for patrons, and I did a monthly email. I called it a word from your library. And every month I had a word, like maybe events or celebrate or something. And I talked about something that was coming up, and that worked really well. And then I had subgroups of maybe parents that came to programming for kids. But what we ended up doing is going with Wildberry, and we love Wildberry so much. We feel like it's an easy way to get information out to people. It links to Facebook. I know that, all of our patrons that use email are getting that from us every week. And it's real quick and easy for me to update it. And I never even heard of it before Kathleen started it. And it's just been a really fun thing for me. I do kind of do it as a volunteer because Mondays I don't work. And that's the day that you're supposed to, that's the day that it comes out as a little reminder to update it. But I feel like that's been really effective. And I try to link a lot of things, events and different things to on the Wildberry, so people could just click and get right to the sign up sheet or whatever. So we've had a lot of good success with that. But I wanted to share, I think I missed out on a question earlier about something fun from Facebook that we did. During COVID, we were looking for ways to kind of reach out to the community. And my son and I were watching The Masked Singer, and I thought that'd be so fun to do something like that. But how could we do it? And so I scaled it back to like the bare bones. And I did a little program I called the Christmas Singer. And I asked several people from the area, from our little town, to sing a clip of a Christmas song that was public domain, so that we wouldn't have any problems with putting it on there. And so they just, in my messaging, they just sang a little like 90-second clip, and I played the clip, and like I said, I called it the Masked Singer and then the Christmas Singer. And so people would guess who it was. And sometimes I'd have to give a little extra clue, but It was super fun and it had a pretty good engagement for people. And like I said, I started it in 2020, but we've done it every year since then. And it's just a lighthearted, fun kind of a thing to do. And you know, I've got some people that were a little hard to find, but everybody got guessed eventually. So that was just a little, I don't know, I just wanted to mention it. It was fun.
I love that idea. That's great. Are there any types of, because going along with that, is there any type of event throughout the year, like National Library Week or Library Card Sign Up Month or anything like that, where you found success with your social media?
We did a stakeholder takeover. So essentially they took over our social media. Now, not really. But we had a person or a family each day. I think we asked them to make 3 posts about how the library impacted them. And some videos, sometimes they were videos, sometimes they were just stock or not stock, but static photos. But that really got people engaged, especially we had the mayor do it, and he's very active on Facebook, so he was, you know, getting people on that. And that was really interesting and great to see the interaction there. We did all the posting. We just asked them to send us everything. But oh, and we did that for National Library Week.
Okay. Well, does anybody else have any other questions or anything you want to mention? I know we said we'd go till 3, but it's already 2:30. It's been an hour. Are there questions or comments anybody wants to make before we wrap up? Okay, I'm not seeing anything in the chat, so all right. Well, thank you everybody for doing this. I think it was really helpful. I know I came away with a couple of ideas, a couple of thoughts, and I also came away with the fact that we're all kind of just trying to figure this out, and it sounds like we're all kind of on the going about it the same way. So okay. Well, if anybody, this recording will be on here, so if anybody wants to get any of the links or get any of the book titles that we talked about, you can refer back to it, and the system will make that available to us. So, and then thank you too to the system for arranging this for all of us. So I really appreciate it. And so I guess we'll see y'all later. Thank you so much. Bye.